The car began to rattle as the road turned from asphalt to gravel. The cry of the cicadas seeped through the tightly shut windows. Most people would open their car windows and let the natural air in, along with the sound of the cicadas. But people are also spoiled. He'd rather keep himself cool with the air conditioning turned to max than listen to the sounds of nature. Usually it was the rainy season at this time of the year, but this June, the summer had already come without any rain. Just like how the weather was on that day, 20 years ago. 20 years ago?
ここはやっぱり空気のいいところだよな。
Akasaka! My man! My goat!
ええ。風光明媚ないい土地です。ひょっとしたら隣の村みたいに世界文化遺産に指定されることもあったかもしれないのに、惜しいですね。
そのおかげで観光客がいない。実に快適じゃないか。どうして旅行者ってのは田舎じゃ交通法規を忘れられるんだ？道路いっぱいに横になりやがって。
赤坂先輩はアウトドア今も？
最近はさっぱりだな。何しろ暇のない家業だからな。
それはお互い様です。おー、いたいた。あやな。
The other man noticed and waved his hand before anyone in the car could honk the horn. The man was a young fellow on a motorcycle with a big backpack on his shoulders. He looked like he was ready to go camping. Akasaka and his partners stepped out of the car and shook hands with the young man. Wait, hold on a second, hold on. I need to pause here for a second. Is this Akasaka like, trying to investigate Hinamizawa in 19... Gosh, what year was it? It was definitely after the disaster in chapter 4, like the epilogue and such. Him and Oishi decided, you know what, let's investigate this for real. And maybe this is like the aftermath. Akasaka decides to visit Hinamizawa long after the tragedy. See if he can find something.
小隊長殿、ご無沙汰いたしております。
おう、今のとこはどうだ？元気にやってるか？今日は楽にしてくれていいぞ。こちらは俺が大学時代に大変お世話になった赤坂先輩だ。
どうも、赤坂です。今日はもう一人大石という者とご一緒するお約束でしたが、直前に検査入院が入ってしまいまして同行できませんでした。この度はお世話になりますが、よろしく。
よろしくお願いします。
さて、赤坂先輩、どこから回りますか？
His name was Mamoru Akasaka. He was a veteran detective from the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. Despite the fact that he was close to his retirement, he hadn't lost his clear instinct and sharp eyes at all. Retirement? Shee. This must be long in the future then. Those eyes showed the confidence he'd built through many risky experiences. And he had a well-built muscular body and a fearless aura. He must have fought against many violent criminals. Man, in that case, he must have, like, if we were to follow the epilogue of chapter 4, this must mean that this must be way in the future. Like, he has been investigating Hinamizawa and what happened here for a long time, and now he's back to business. Again. His connection to Hinamizawa went back almost 30 years, all the way to 1978. Yeah, okay, so it did say before, 20 years ago. I wasn't sure what that meant, but 30 years. Here it's 2008. He was in the Public Safety Division in the Metropolitan Police Department. He came to Hinamizawa to investigate the kidnapping case of the grandson of Inukai, the then Minister of Construction. There, he met Oishi and Rika Furude. Rika Furude predicted her own death. Akasaka regretted for the rest of his life that he couldn't save that little girl from her fate. He saw the news of the great Hinamizawa disaster on TV and met up again with Oishi. They pledged to uncover the mystery of both the cruel fate that fell upon the little girl and the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa. Unfortunately, Hinamizawa was sealed off for a long time. As a result, all Akasaka and Oishi could do for the past 20 years was publish the little information they'd gathered, and ask for their readers to send their tips and clues. But recently, the seal on Hinamizawa had finally been lifted. Yeah, it was mentioned that, I think that in the epilogue of chapter 4, it was mentioned that Hinamizawa was sealed off, so they had to try to gather information, and I guess because it was sealed off, they couldn't do much. However, they couldn't come to Hinamizawa until today, due to Akasaka's busy work schedule and Oishi's poor health. Okay, so this is literally the first time. In fact, Oishi was supposed to come with Akasaka, but he was called in for an emergency health checkup. The other two who came along were Akasaka's juniors from university. One worked at the Grand SDF, and the other was his subordinate. They were assigned the mission of sitting off Hinamizawa, so they were quite knowledgeable about the village. Akasaka took out a scrapbook from his bag. The corners of the scrapbook were all dented, making it look very old. Akasaka flipped through the pages, thought for a second, and let them know his first destination.
では、鬼ヶ淵沼をお願いします。
了解いたしました。それではご案内いたします。
The young man got on his bike and waited for the others to get back to their car. They honked at each other to signal that they were ready, and the young man led the car to the swamp. Heading through the forest, they came to an open area where the ground was covered by concrete. There wasn't even a single drop of water in sight. All the water of the swamp had been replaced by concrete. Well, damn. That was what Onikafuchi Swamp looked like now.
沼どころか、水たまりもないな。
Go figure. Getting rid of the evidence like entirely. Concrete style. Mafia style.
大災害後のだいぶ初期に埋め立てられたと聞いています。自分がここへ着任した時はすでに埋め立てられていました。
ちょっと降りてみよ
う。Akasaka got out of the car and walked to the center of the concrete-filled swamp. It wasn't a parking lot or a helipad. It was just a huge empty concrete space right in the middle of the forest.
なるほど。これがネットでよく言う UFO の着陸場というやつか。
そんなことを言われてるんですか？
ここの写真がよくミステリー系のサイトに紹介されてるよ。ここで政府と宇宙人が交流してたって言うんだ。確かにこんな森の中にポカンとこんなコンクリートの空き地があれば不審に思うよな。
The government and aliens. Sheesh. You know, I won't be surprised that. Well, I'm gonna assume that this is like, while this is Akasaka investigating in the future in similar fashion to chapter 4, this must be the timeline of chapter 6. So I won't be surprised if this timeline was influenced by talks of UFOs and aliens because of Reina, more than any other timelines. Or, I don't know. Like, you can definitely imagine that talks of UFOs and aliens would be prevalent no matter what timeline it is. You know, because of the internet and all that. Volcanic gas erupted from the swamp in June 1983. The deadly mixture of hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide engulfed and destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night. The village was sealed off and the SDF covered the swamp with concrete.
ネットで騒いでる連中にも 連中なりの根拠があるらしい。地質学的に言って、ガスの発生源を塞ぐために沼をコンクリートで固めるなんてのは何の意味もないかららしいんだ。
なるほど。確かに活火山の火口をコンクリートで埋めたという話は聞かないですね。でもまあ、税金での無駄な工事は我が国の伝統ですから。
Lately, people who love things like supernatural phenomena and UFOs write on the internet about the great Hinamizawa disaster. It's well known by now that the cause of the disaster was an eruption of deadly volcanic gas from a magma chamber. Maybe it's not necessarily that they would try to prevent like any volcanic eruption with the concrete, but rather prevent anybody from seeing any physical evidence inside the swamp. In 1986, a similar natural disaster occurred at Lake Nyos in Cameroon, Africa. So people easily believed that such a rare natural disaster could occur anywhere on Earth. And that was what happened in Hinamizawa as well. However, a rumor about another possible explanation had begun to fly around on the internet recently. They say that the disaster was covered up by the government, and that it was actually a biochemical terrorist attack by aliens. Close enough. It could very well have been done by the government. That it was a biochemical terrorist. Covered up by the government. Why has such a rumor begun to spread now? They claim to back up their fear with a secret document known as File Number 34. Someone online named it File Number 34 for descriptive purposes. But the name spread and stuck since then because it sounded like a government conspiracy. People loved it. It's unknown how or from where they obtained those documents, but they posted scans and pictures, which were all ridiculous. Plus, more fake evidence was produced over time, so now even the existence of such documents are in doubt. File number 34 deserves a bit more explanation. However, since it started on the internet, truths and lies were all mixed together, and it has become more like an urban legend. Alright, well, if it's possible, another lead would be to try and find this document number 34, which I guess only Akasaka would be able to if it were possible. So this is what is believed to mostly be true. File number 34 was a notebook written by a nurse. Okay, never mind. Maybe, hold on, it was a notebook written by a nurse named Mio Takano, who worked at a local clinic in Hinamizawa. File number 34 most likely named after her. Okay, well, which of the scrapbooks is this? Is this the one that, like one of the scrapbooks that Reina had with her? This woman was a researcher who studied the demon myth of Hinamizawa and tried to solve what it meant. Okay, well, never mind. I was thinking that this document 34 would be something completely new, but no, this is actually something that Reina had, or maybe, who knows, maybe it is something new. Maybe something with like the most amount of evidence possible that would conclude a lot of things more than the previous scrapbooks. The contents of this notebook state that she prophesied the Great Hinamizawa disaster of 1983. According to her research, a UFO crash landed in Hinamizawa a long time ago and sunk into Onigafuchi swamp. The UFO carried parasitic bacteria from space, and they began to infect the locals. Okay, so if we are to think that this was something that Reina also had, and that is what started Reina's rampage, then she definitely read about the great disaster as well. The infected villagers began to behave extremely violently, so much so that they were fit for the word demon. Mio Takano insisted that this was the explanation for the myth about demons pouring out of the swamp. An alien who survived the crash realized that the Earthlings had gone crazy because of the bacteria he brought in, and he decided to show himself to the villagers to help them out. This is how Oyashiro-sama was born. The alien was able to cure the villagers with highly advanced technology, but couldn't eradicate bacteria completely. Since the villagers looked up to the alien as some sort of deity, the alien utilized its status to hand down specific rules to the villagers in order to stabilize the disease. The bacteria took a liking to Hinamizawa's habitat, so when the carrier of the hit disease left Hinamizawa, their symptoms would re-emerge. Therefore, the alien made it a rule not to leave the village. This leads to the legend of the transcendence of Onigafuchi. The weird practices and miracles that the villagers performed were realized by means of the advanced technology that they received from the alien.
そういうののマニアな人たちはつくづくそういうのが好きですよね。ノストラダムスの大予言だって99年にはあんなに騒いだのに、7月が過ぎたら何事もなかったかのようにみんな過ごしてる。民放もあれだけ煽っておいて無責任たらありゃしない。
Yeah, well, the thing is, the disaster did happen this time around.
でも高野美代はHinamizawa大災害を予見したらしい。それは嘘じゃない。確かにこのスクラップ帳に書いてある。
そんなまさか。赤坂先輩、それ本当に？
As time passed, the bacteria stabilized in human bodies and became harmless. The alien and the bacteria began to fade away from people's minds. However, the alien has lived on for hundreds of years with the protection of the free families. It still lives on as the spirit of a deity in the secret temple of the Furuta Shrine. Fuck! You know, remember that theory that I had about the Oyashiro child, and how I was thinking that maybe Rika is taking care of Oyashiro the child, and we've seen some evidence in this with some other child that Rika was speaking to from time to time in the tips and all that. What if it was an alien? Because even if we were to exclude like the writings in the scrapbook, it still fits with my theory as well, that maybe the government were experimenting on Oyashiro the child. Except it wasn't just some human on which they managed to succeed like a infectious disease that would create powers, but maybe the government were experimenting on the alien, and the alien just escaped and Rika found like the alien. Okay. Alright. Like, I know I have been laughing at this theory about the alien thing, but you know what? Sure. I'm just gonna keep it in my backpack. I'm just gonna put the alien theory in my backpack as well, I guess. The alien manipulated the bacteria living inside of the villagers and maintained control over them for hundreds of years. The alien wanted to regain its power and started researching how to bring back the lost powers of the bacteria, etc., etc. Things get much stranger from there. People say that the disaster was actually part of the aliens' plan to conquer the entire Earth by spreading the reawakened bacteria. You know what? I have been seeing myself as a conspiracy nut ever since chapter 1 with the whole government thing, and have created all sorts of theories. I know I have been rejecting like the alien theory, like in with laughter and such, like laughing at it, but why do I think that I'm above the alien theory when I have been theorizing such bullcrap like ever since the beginning? So sure, why not? The Japanese government has a secret division that fights against alien invasions, and they trained at Area 51 in the US, etc., etc. Oh my god. And they moved in to stop the invasion by setting off the entire village. and I killed off all the residents by using toxic gas.
映画でそんなのありましたね。なんて言ったっけな。
MIB。
この辺まで来ると、俺もそろそろめちゃくちゃだなとは思う。ただ、このめちゃくちゃを書いた高野美代は、昭和58年の6月中旬、正体不明の開始を遂げる。そして、その死の直前に、自らの死を悟ったかのように、村の一人の少女にこのスクラップ帳を預けて、意志を託したというんだ。
That girl is known as Girl A. Some guy who investigated the case was able to track it down to a girl named Reina Ryuugu. So, now it's known as the Reina Ryuugu theory on the internet. Reina Ryuugu inherited Mio Takano's will by means of the scrapbooks. She tried to fight against the planned invasion by holding a school hostage and demanding the local police uncover the aliens' plot. Of course, no one believed her and they assumed she was in a state of paranoia. Back then, people assumed that Reina Ryuugu took Mio Takano's delusions seriously and was motivated to commit a poorly executed crime. When she held the school hostage, Reina Ryuugu told local police that the alien was controlling the three families, and that it was plotting bioterrorism on a massive scale. And the very next day, the great Hinamizawa disaster occurred.
まさか、そりゃ偶然じゃないんですか?
The very next day, Jesus Christ. I mean, hold on a sec. The credits of the chapter, it said that a couple of were injured, like, you know, Rika, Satogo, like Mion and Keiichi and all that. And they said that that Rena was put on trial, and it was still to be determined. That would mean that, at the very least, Rena should still be alive. Well, the question still remains. Did Rika die as well?
わからない。偶然ではないと思う連中に言わせると、その後の自衛隊による封鎖はおかしなことだらけらしい。例えば、この沼の埋め立てが一例だ。そして、埋め立てる前に、明らかに通常の地質調査とは異なる秘密の調査を行っていたとされていて、当時、ここの封鎖に関わっていた自衛隊員たちが、それを何人も証言している。否定派はそれを、単にガスの発生地なので、危険に備えて立ち入りを制限していただけだと主張するんだがね。
Here's the thing though. I mean, let's say that there is this alien theory kind of thing. Like if I were to combine with my theories and such. Because I'm still going with the idea that, like, Takano was researching, like, the revival of Oyashiro, and that the revival of Oyashiro would bring disaster. Because if we're thinking about some alien that did this, that feels like completely separate. Unless we are to assume that Rika is the alien. But also, it is assumed that this alien has lived for like more than 100 years. As far as we know, she was birthed, like, just like any other human. Unless you're saying that Rika's family is one of aliens. Like, either way, if I'm to continue and think that Rika's death is what triggers like the disaster, that would imply that the government are going after Rika if she was the alien to try and stop everything. If Rika was the ringleader of the aliens. But no, like I'm also thinking that it could be Oyashiro the child that is the alien. If Rika's taking care of that child. Which would mean that not only are they going after Rika, but they're also going after Oyashiro the child. You know, to either kill her or as I assumed before, try to capture her since she escaped previously. I don't know. It's... God damn this stupid song. This stupid song is so loud. Like, it distracts me from saying what I have to say. Like, the alien theory sounds so convenient for me that it could help me. But at the same time... I don't know, I feel like I need more evidence.
それは多分否定派の言うのが正しいんじゃないかと思いますね。
他にも異常に長かった封鎖期間も疑惑の目が向けられている。近年に起こった離島の火山ガス災害の例を見てもわかるように 4,5 年で立ち入り禁止を解いている。Hinamizawaのケースは例外中の例外のケースのはずなのに、封鎖は極めて長期に及んだ。
あのケースは島民が帰島を強く希望したからと聞いています。Hinamizawaには帰る人がそもそもいないんだから、十分安全が確認できるまでたっぷり期間を置いただけなのでは。
あとこんな話もあるぞ。
Actually, now that I think about it, the theory about this alien that is still alive even to this point, like after 100 years, ever since the beginning of like Onigafuchi like village, the one who came and arrived, like crashed on the Onigafuchi swamp and then healed the village and kept everyone safe and all that. Like, it contradicts the idea that Rika would be the alien because as far as we know, Rika was born like 13 years ago, like according to the present timeline. Unless the alien doesn't necessarily need like a body, like the alien would just shift from one body to another, and that's why Ben Castell said them saying that they lived like all these timelines would be the equivalent of saying that it's more so that they have lived like many years. It's just that Ben Castell, the alien. Okay, keep it going. Ben Castell, the alien, has lived for many years by switching through bodies. So Rika's body is not the only body that they live. I don't. Okay.
Hinamizawaを封鎖していた自衛隊員たちは定期的に血を抜かれての厳密な検査を受けていたといい、何らかの結果によって自他ともに理解できない理由で任務を解かれることがあったという。それは実は細菌感染の陽性反応を見るもので、自衛隊員たちをとどまらせることによる何らかの人体実験だったとささやかれているらしい。
それはやはりガスが湧き出す危険性があっただけに、健康管理には気を使ったということでしょう。それに普通のサラリーマンだって年に一度は健康診断を受け、その時に血を抜かれてるはずです。
まあ君の言うことももっともだと思う。あともっと面白い話もあるぞ。Hinamizawa大災害時に火山ガスは発生していないと主張する連中がいる。
Okay.
火山ガスは発生していない？どういう意味ですか？
つまりもともと火山ガスなんか噴出してなくて、ガス災害というのが政府の嘘であると主張しているらしい。ほら、洋画の人類と UFO がコンタクトする作品でも同じ設定だったじゃないか。
それこそミステリーマニアのこじつけだと思いますね。で、その連中は何を根拠に火山ガスが発生しなかったと言っているんです？
封鎖解除後、ミステリーマニアがどっと押し寄せて UFO 説を補強するためにいろいろ調べたらしい。で、連中の主張はこうだ。政府発表の火山ガス成分によるならば、硫化水素によって金属が腐食されたり、 自然体系に大きなダメージが残るはずだ。にもかかわらず、南沢にはそういう痕跡が残っておらず、よって火山ガスが噴出したとは到底思えないとかなんとか言ってる。
Okay.
もっともあれから20年も放置された村なんだ。そんな痕跡を発見できたかどうかは疑わしいな。
やはりつくづくインターネットというのは信用できませんね。で、まさか赤坂先輩はその怪しげな話を信じてるわけですか？
最初は信じなかったが、最近は俺もわからない。何割かは真実が含まれているかもしれないと思うようになっている。
赤坂先輩ともあろうお方が UFO 話を信じるんですか？
このスクラップ帳、これが本物の34号文書だとしたら、昭和58年6月25日にhinamizawa営林署に人質を取って籠城した竜宮レイナが所持していた正真正銘本物の34号文書だ。
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
hinamizawa大災害の混乱で長いこと行方不明だったが、近年大石さんの古い友人が県警の保存庫で発見したらしい。
Back then, Oishi thought Reina Ryuugu was delusional. But after reading this again after the Great Hinamizawa disaster, some of the contents seemed to hold vital clues. It's not the alien part that he was interested in, but her theory that an endemic disease of parasitic microbes in Hinamizawa was responsible for the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Of course, there's no proof that such microbes existed, so it still remains at a theoretical level.
大石さんの仮説なんだが、御三家が過去の信仰心を村に取り戻すために大昔の毒性の強い病原体を研究していたのは本当じゃないかって言うんだ。hinamizawa大災害は実はその結果の失敗じゃないかってな。
Okay. This theory is also based on theories that Miss he found on the internet. The village's clinic chief doctor died mysteriously right before the Great Hinamizawa disaster. A girl, Rika Furude, was brutally murdered on the night that Reina Ryuugu took the school hostage. God damn it. And here I told you guys to, pay close attention to Rika. And then the school hostage situation took place. There could have been an underground research lab beneath the village clinic, and Dr. Rie could have been forced to do microbiological research, but he couldn't live with his own sins and committed suicide. Okay? Rika Furude could have been brutally murdered and sacrificed for some sort of ritual ceremony in the name of Oyashiro-sama's revival. However, their experiment went wrong. Instead of the microbes being parasitic villagers, they became a killer virus. And they exterminated the entire village in one night.
ただのガス災害じゃないことは明白なんだ。ガスが湧く直前に一人の少女が最近テロを予告し、数人の村人が開始を遂げている。
Okay. Alright. So Akasaka is thinking the same way as I am. That maybe it was some experimental thing and they were experimenting on the village. And that the great disaster was a result of some experimental failure.
それをスクラップ帳にまとめた高野美代本人も含めてね。あれを偶然の予見不可能な災害だとするにはどうも腑に落ちない要素が少なくない。この34号文書を読めばそれらは明らかにはっきりしてくる。
じゃあhinamizawa大災害は自然災害ではなく細菌テロ。
In the modern era, everyone in Japan knows about a shocking incident where a doomsday cult created a nerve gas, sarin, and unleashed it for the purposes of mass murder. Sarin. But in the 80s, the idea of a single cult being able to carry out such an act of terrorism didn't even cross our minds.
その後の自衛隊の長い封鎖はその殺人ウイルスを調査するためではないかと囁かれているんだが、すっ きりしないな。
UFO に乗った宇宙人がって話よりはカルト集団がって方が近年は信憑性がありますからね。
本当に UFO が墜落した可能性もあるかもしれないな。竜宮レイナが人質籠城時に出した要求の筆頭は、鬼ヶ淵沼の底には墜落した UFO の残骸があるから引き上げろという。
バカバカしい。
それがバカバカしいか調べたくても、見ろ。沼はコンクリートで数メートルの厚さで固められ、確かめる術もない。地質学的にはガスを防ぐ効果は何も期待できないはずのバカバカしい工事によってだ。
You know, it's also like, I guess in one way you could say that it makes sense that they would fill this with concrete instead of, I don't know, just have like a special task force that would jump inside the swamp and gather like all the evidence that would unwrap the government's secrets. Because if it was some bodies, some like multiple bodies, like some pieces of evidence, small pieces of evidence, fine, you could just swim inside the swamp. You could have some special force for that. But pulling out an entire like the UFO, that would be too much. I don't think that like once you come in with some heavy gear to pull like the UFO, you cannot hide that. Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna carry it on some truck, on the back of the truck, and then just just leave? No, people are gonna suspect something. So I guess the best option would be to just like fill it with concrete, I guess.
赤坂先輩がそれを立証するには、あとはここの住民の生き残りを見つけて、体内からその特殊な病原体ってやつを見つけ出すほかないんじゃないですか。
それも致命的だ。hinamizawa大災害後のhinamizawa出身者に対する魔女狩りのせいで、今や出身者の存在は不明だ。彼らは名乗りなど上げない。
Right after the disaster, some people who were from Hinamizawa started displaying erratic behavior. When they started dying mysteriously and committing suicide in strange ways, people got scared of them and chased them out of their neighborhoods. The government was practically useless in protecting their privacy at the time, so the former residents of Hinamizawa lied about where they were from and have kept it that way since. Damn it.
じゃあお手上げじゃないですか。
それでも諦めないのが刑事魂ってもんだよ。あれが自然災害じゃなかったっていう状況証拠はいくらでもあるんだ。何か一つの具体的証拠が見つかれば、芋づる式に全てを白日のもとにさらせるかもしれない。
Well, we do have concrete proof. It is like right beneath our feet.
まあ、あれから20年経過してますからね。真相はあまりに遠い闇の中かもしれません。
そうだな。21世紀の今頃になってここを訪れても何も分かりはしないのかもな。
What happened in Hinamizawa in June 1983? The only factual evidence that I had was that Mio Takano mysteriously died and left her scrapbook predicting a pirate terrorist attack. A young girl took a school hostage to make people listen to this prediction, but no one took it seriously. The chief doctor at the village clinic committed suicide. People believed that a little girl, Rika Furude, was a reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, and she was brutally murdered. What was the truth behind the scrapbook? Alright, well, here's the thing. I don't know if I can... Okay, I think I'm gonna let the song die out right here. Thank you. So I said this before. I'm not gonna do like any other investigation video anymore. I want to go through the story. I think I've said all that I had to say up until this point. And if I have theories, of course, I'm gonna talk about them through the parts, just like I'm doing it right now. I'm not gonna do any more investigation parts. I want to finish this case as soon as possible. So, with that being said, what can I conclude out of this? Of course, everything that I said in the last investigation part, I'm still keeping them with me. I'm not gonna throw away the involvement of the government and Takano. It's just that, I guess, what we can add to this whole thing is the alien part. Maybe Oyashiro the child is an alien. Maybe Rika is an alien. Could be possible. On one hand, it kind of fits with my theories, but at the same time, still doesn't solve like everything, to be quite honest. So, yeah, I guess next time when we begin the new chapter, we're gonna continue with that. We're gonna continue thinking about governments and Takano and their involvement in all this. I guess now with inclusion of aliens. Jesus Christ. Was it written to reveal a huge conspiracy? Or was it just a bunch of delusions written by an occult maniac? If the contents of the scrapbook were true, the disaster could have been avoided if we had heeded the warnings of one girl. If they weren't true, then who created the disaster to follow the scenario of the scrapbook? After the Saudi nerve gas incident, the words mind control came into the spotlight. Mind control, in contrast to brainwashing, which can easily force a person to commit certain acts in the short term. Mind control takes a long time to gradually make a person believe that what he or she must do is the right thing to do, and to act upon it as if it were his or her own idea. It's a form of character alteration, which is far more serious than brainwashing. Whoa, hold on a second. God damn it. Okay, well, here's another idea. Remember, I said that maybe the government is trying to create like some deadly virus / disease that infects people. And I said that maybe for the sake of like having power. Because I said, maybe with a successful disease / drug or whatever, it could make it so that one person can see into many timelines, in similar fashion to Rika. That's why I said Rika could very well be like a successful experiment, or I said Oyashiro the child would be like a successful experiment. It's just that Oyashiro the child ran away and infected Rika, and Rika also has this kind of power. But what if it's not that? What if it's the power to mind control people? Maybe, like, the government where they reside would have some form of device that when a person is infected with this disease for long enough, the government would be able to mind control those infected in similar fashion to Keiichi or Reina into creating these deadly scenarios. That could also be used in wars too, to manipulate people. It's just that it would manipulate the enemy. Jesus Christ. The call behind the sarin gas incident induced fear and anxiety into its members through its revelations of doomsday. At the same time, they ordered them to do certain things as means of salvation. I'm starting to really hate this song, and had them do so voluntarily. The formula was quite similar to how Reina Ryuugu became a puppet of file number 34. So, does that mean that Reina Ryuugu was mind controlled by someone? I mean, I guess it also gives credence to Takano being a part of it, because like it really makes you question, why does Takano keep giving like these scrapbooks to people like Reina and Shion, and you know, screwing with Keiichi in similar fashion to chapter 1? It's because through this, it creates even more paranoia, and thus they would be able to be controlled easily. Maybe? Does that mean that the cult that mind control they were tried to cause the end of the world in order to increase the credibility of their teachings, just like the other cult did? But on second thought, it really makes no sense because chapter 6 ended the way it did. If Reina managed to kill Keiichi and she would continue to be paranoid and, fucked up the way she was before, then sure. But Reina, she basically got back to normal there. She revived some of her sanity. So at that point, would the government be able to control Reina anymore for the disaster to happen after that day? No, the disaster did happen no matter what. In fact, the disaster happens no matter who, creates these deadly scenarios during the chapters. What happened with Shion? Let's say that chapter 2 and 5, the disaster did happen. The disaster happens no matter what. No matter what Shion did in the chapters, no matter what Reina did in chapter 6, no matter what Keiichi did in chapter 1, the disaster happens no matter what. So, these events in these chapters don't really matter. It's Rika and Oyashiro the child we should be focusing on. Reina and the kids could just live peacefully no matter what. The disaster was still gonna happen. With that being said, does this mean that, if I'm to think that Rika and Oyashiro the child are successful, experimentations, they're only controlling Rika and the Oyashiro child for the disaster to happen? Maybe. But if we were to go with the idea that the government is responsible for mind controlling those who are infected for this long, these events don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Why would the government control Reina to the point of taking a school hostage? Why would the government control Shion in ruining the families and such, when the disaster is gonna happen no matter what, independently from those? So, no, I don't think that. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna throw that theory out the window. I don't think that mind control is a part of this. I don't think that's the case. When I lose my grip on what's true and what's not, it sometimes makes me feel that someone might be laughing in amusement at this disaster. This scrapbook was like a script. It was a script for a tragedy that takes the lives of thousands of villagers in one night. It was a script for demons who laugh at their loss for human life. Someone wrote the script. Someone performed it. Someone watched the show and laughed. Damn it. What the hell happened in Hinamizawa in June 1983? Alright, well, I guess we shall continue theorizing. Aliens or not, government or not, we're gonna have to continue with this. So, before we end this, let's see what the staff room has for us. Hello, my name is Ryukishi07. I hope you enjoy playing Higurashi When They Cry Ho. Chapter 6, Tsumihoroboshi. There are several themes I wanted to write in this chapter, but I'd like to talk about one of them here. It's about the denial of murder. This is something I had to write sooner or later, since this is a novel about serial murders. There are two means the youngsters in particular use these days to solve problems, which are murder and suicide. When we feel stress, we choose to either get rid of the source of the stress or to get away from it. Let's say you're bullied by a kid at school. You have two ways to solve the problem. You choose either to get rid of the kid from your current environment, or to get away from the environment itself. Usually bullies are stronger and have their underlings, so you don't stand a chance alone to get rid of them. It's also not easy to switch classes or to quit school, so you can't easily get away from the situation. As a result, the situation gets worse day by day, and your stress urges you to solve the problem immediately. And you come up with murder or suicide as easy solutions. If suicide is considered defeat, you'd want to consider murder. I feel like there are many people who think that way. However, if you actually committed murder, it wouldn't be easy to pay for the sin. I believe murderers know that well too, but you really hate the bully who pushed you to the limit where you have no choice but to kill him. So with a determination to turn your entire life upside down, you commit murder. But if you have such strong determination, there have to be more ways to take than opting for murder, which should be the last resort. You can talk to your friends. If that doesn't work, you can talk to your family. If that doesn't work, you can talk to your teacher. If that doesn't work, then what? There have to be more ways. If you have the determination to give up on your life by committing murder, there have to be more ways. Our modern era is better than any era before it. There are many hotlines that you can call to talk to someone. Even if you don't have any friends or family, there are many places you can go for help. The people who will answer the phone aren't amateurs. They're volunteers, but they're also veterans who have worked as social workers or juvenile counselors for a long time. You know what? No wonder the questioning of murder as a last resort and having no option left, like instant affection to Keiichi and Reina in this chapter, are such prevalent topics in this. Because while Ryukishi is not a private investigator or detective and all that, he was a social worker, so he surely has dealt with such things. Maybe not to the extent of murder and all that, but bullying, like gaslighting, abusive households, and all that. Yeah. I can assure you that they have more social experience and passion than your parents do. People who work to help people for free can't be bad people. If you feel like you have no choice but to kill the bully or commit suicide, please try to call those hotlines. People who think it's useless to talk to others usually haven't really talked to anyone. Have the courage to talk. Have the courage to call. There will be somebody you can completely rely on at the other end of the line. Don't keep it to yourself. Talk to somebody. Ryukishi07 wrote such a long story just to tell you this. He must be a very poor writer. So, Ryukishi wants to talk to you all, rather than worrying all by himself. How can I write even more entertaining stories? 07th expansion. Ryukishi07. Alright, well, I do thank you for this message. And all. And with that, we conclude chapter 6. Well, I guess so. It is time for me to go now and try and see if I can get some rest. At least for a little bit.